What happens when a franchise player stops feeling like a franchise player? Not because of age, not because the talent disappeared, but because the team around him quietly starts looking better without him. That's the uncomfortable question hovering over Memphis right now. Ja Morant was supposed to be the face of a contender, the heartbeat of the Grizzlies' future. Instead, the conversation around him has shifted in a way nobody saw coming. Wins without him, awkward comments, league insiders suddenly whispering instead of praising. And if you think this is just another injury setback, you're already behind, because over the last month, the Ja Morant situation didn't cool off. It flipped completely. And what's happening next could change his career in a way no one is prepared for. It didn't start with trade rumors or heated arguments. It started with a sentence that felt small at the time, but heavy in meaning. Ja Morant admitted he wasn't feeling the same joy playing basketball anymore. Not frustrated, not tired, joyless. And when a franchise star says that out loud, people inside the building don't just hear honesty, they hear a warning. From there, the tone around Memphis subtly shifted. Press conferences felt colder, answers felt shorter. At times, Ja sounded checked out, while the coaching staff sounded careful, almost guarded. Reports suggested tension behind the scenes, and fans began noticing moments where the body language didn't match the message. This wasn't a player fighting through adversity. This looked like someone drifting away from the role he was supposed to own. And while nothing exploded publicly, the uneasiness lingered, because when a star stops sounding like the leader, it raises a question no team wants to ask. What happens if this is more than just a phase? Then the situation took a turn that changed everything. Ja went down with a calf injury and was forced to step away. Normally, that's when a season starts to unravel. You lose your star, the offense stalls, and everyone just waits for the return. That's how this story was supposed to go. But Memphis didn't collapse. They adjusted. The ball started moving faster. Roles became clearer. Players who looked unsure suddenly played with confidence. And almost overnight, the Grizzlies began stacking wins without the guy making $40 million a year to lead them. 7 wins in 10 games. No excuses, no flukes. What made it even harder to ignore was the timing. The Grizzlies looked lost early in the season while Ja was playing. Once he sat, they looked organized, composed, and dangerous. That's when the conversation quietly shifted from "when will he be back" to something far more uncomfortable. And once people started looking at the numbers, there was no turning back. The numbers didn't just raise eyebrows, they changed the entire conversation. With Ja on the floor, Memphis ranked dead last in ball movement during half-court possessions. The offense slowed to a crawl. Teammates stood still, waiting, watching, hoping something would happen. But the moment Ja went to the bench, everything flipped. The Grizzlies suddenly became one of the best passing teams in the league, moving the ball freely and playing with purpose. And it wasn't subtle. Ja ranked near the top in touches per game and near the top in how long he held the ball each time. High usage isn't the problem. Low return is. Memphis was producing fewer points per touch with Ja than with almost any other high-usage player in the league. The ball stuck, the rhythm disappeared, and efficiency tanked. Same roster, same system, same coaching staff. The only variable was him. And once that reality set in, it forced a brutal question no franchise player ever wants attached to their name. Is the team actually better when he's not out there? While Memphis was quietly finding its rhythm, there was an assumption around the league that Ja would disappear from the noise. Let the calf heal. Let the wins speak. Let the attention fade. Instead, the opposite happened. During a game he never checked into, Ja still found a way to put himself at the center of it. After the final buzzer, Ja walked onto the court and went straight at Klay Thompson. No uniform, no stat line, just confrontation. Teammates and security quickly stepped in, but the moment had already landed. Then, as if that wasn't enough, Ja crashed a teammate's post-game interview, still talking, still performing, still demanding attention, while the team celebrated without him. Klay didn't laugh it off. He didn't keep it private. He responded the way only a veteran with rings can, blunt and public, calling Ja a funny guy with a lot to say for someone who rarely takes accountability. And then came the line that cut deeper than any box score ever could. Running your mouth from the bench. A career that keeps leaving people wanting more. That wasn't just trash talk. It was a respected voice putting a growing league-wide feeling into words. And once those words hit the timeline, the conversation around Ja changed permanently. Because now, it wasn't just fans questioning him. It was the people he was supposed to measure himself against. Once those comments and clips spread, the reaction didn't fade like most viral moments do. According to reports, it followed Ja into the places that actually matter. Private conversations, front office calls, quiet evaluations that never make headlines but shape careers. League insiders have hinted that several executives began re-examining Ja through a very different lens. Not as a highlight machine, but as a long-term investment. The questions weren't emotional, they were practical. How often is he available? How much attention does he require? And most importantly, can a locker room truly settle when everything seems to orbit one player? Former players added another layer. Some openly questioned his leadership, suggesting the confidence sometimes feels manufactured rather than earned. Others pointed out that real leaders don't need to insert themselves into moments that aren't theirs, especially when the team is winning without them. Those critiques stuck because they echoed what teams were already whispering. And here's the part that changed everything. There's been buzz that some decision makers privately wondered whether Ja's contract now carries more risk than reward. Not because his ability vanished, but because unpredictability scares front offices more than poor shooting nights ever could. When that thought enters the room, a player stops being untouchable. He becomes movable. With that uncertainty hanging over the league, trade rumors didn't just resurface, they evolved. According to reports, the Timberwolves became one of the teams quietly linked to Ja Morant, and the reasoning wasn't hard to follow. Minnesota has been searching for a long-term answer at point guard, and the idea of pairing a fearless scorer with Anthony Edwards has obvious appeal. League buzz suggests the Timberwolves have at least explored what a deal could look like. Nothing aggressive, nothing imminent, just conversations. But even exploratory talks were enough to send mock trade scenarios flying across the internet. Packages began circulating, built around Naz Reid, Mike Conley, Dante DiVincenzo, and future draft capital, a mix of depth, experience, and flexibility. Still, this wouldn't be a simple swing. For Minnesota, it would be a massive bet on change, a belief that a new environment could quiet the noise, stabilize the situation, and unlock the version of Ja that once terrified defenses nightly. That's a heavy gamble for a team already balancing chemistry, expectations, and a closing window. And from Memphis's side, the decision would be just as uncomfortable. Moving a franchise star is never about talent, it's about timing. Do you cash out now while there's still intrigue? Or do you double down and hope this stretch becomes a footnote instead of a turning point? Because once these conversations start circulating, they rarely stay theoretical for long. This is where the situation turns from complicated to dangerous. Because even if a trade makes sense on paper, there's a layer no front office can ignore. Ja Morant doesn't come with just highlights anymore. He comes with conditions, availability concerns, reputation management, and a history that forces teams to ask harder questions than they want to. Any team that considers taking him on has to believe they can reset the narrative, that the injuries won't linger, that the off-court noise won't resurface, that leadership will evolve instead of fracture. And that's a lot to gamble on when you're already trying to win now. Memphis faces a similar reality. If they commit to Ja, they're committing to rebuilding trust inside the locker room and reshaping how the offense runs. If they move him, they risk admitting that the experiment didn't go the way they planned. Neither option is clean. Neither option is safe. And that's what makes this moment feel so pivotal. This isn't about one bad stretch or one viral clip. It's about whether Ja Morant is still seen as a cornerstone or as a calculated risk that someone else has to take. This is what makes the Ja Morant situation so unsettling. The talent is undeniable, but the certainty is gone. A player once viewed as untouchable is now surrounded by hesitation, quiet evaluations, and uncomfortable conversations that don't usually happen this early in a star's prime. Memphis is standing at a crossroads. They're winning games without their franchise player while questions keep stacking up. Rumors suggest phones are ringing, front offices are weighing risk versus reward, and Ja, whether intentionally or not, is now battling a narrative that grows louder the longer it goes unanswered.